Hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. How is everyone doing this evening? Tell us, if you are so inclined, tell us where you are tuning in from. Jody is in Ireland and Manit is in Nashville and I'm in Seattle. So we are all over the place. Where are you tuning in from? Manhattan Beach, Redmond, Tucson, Portland, Bellevue, Shaker Heights, Ohio. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to let a few more people tune in and then we will get started. Welcome. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. I'm Laura Hamilton. I have a cookbook shop here in Seattle called Booklarder. And when we are allowed to be in person, we do a lot of author talks and cooking classes in the kitchen in our shop. And in the time of this pandemic, we have taken those chats to Zoom, which, as you can see, if you're looking at the chat, means the upside of that is that we get to welcome people from all over the country and sometimes all over the world to our author talks. And we get to do events like tonight where Jody and Manit are on completely different parts of the world, but they still get to come together, talk to each other, and discuss Manit and Jody's wonderful new book, Chat. I would normally have a copy of it here. I had to take mine to the store so someone could buy it, and we got plenty more in stock, so don't worry about that. But Manit and Jody will share the book with you this evening. We are definitely going to take questions during the talk. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen for those questions. You can use the chat to sort of talk to each other, but use the Q&A button for questions because that will make it a lot easier to keep track of those questions. The book is, of course, available on Booklarder's website, booklarder.com, and you can support this talk by purchasing it from us if you are so inclined to buy the book. Manit was kind enough to send us book plates, which are little signed stickers, and so you will have what is basically the closest thing to a signed copy of the book if you order it from us. All right, so I am going to turn things over now to Manit Chauhan and Jody Eddy. And we're gonna have Jody start her video, and I'm gonna turn mine off.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Hi, Manit. I miss you.
Oh my God. Hi, Jody. I miss you too.
How are you?
I am missing being on the trains and eating like insane, copious amounts of dishes. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the book is right over here, and there's a stack right back over there, as you can see. But yeah, I miss those times that we could do this.
Me too. Absolutely. So I love your description of Chat. So, and your enthusiasm when you talk about it. So should we start there?
Oh, absolutely. So Chat, Chat translated from Hindi means to lick, right? So Indian street foods are called chaats, most of them. And these are lickable dishes that you end up licking the bowl, the spoon, the hand, whatever comes in contact with those chaats, and they are delicious. They are, spicy and crunchy and sweet and hot and cold. Like, it's just this explosion of flavors and textures when you take the first bite that you're like, what is going on? And, it's so interesting. When Priya Krishnan wrote the article on, at New York Times about Chaat, she captured, she's like, to Manit, Chaat is an emotion. And I'm like, yeah, you're so right. It is an emotion. And that's what it is. And this book is so fun. It is, it doesn't have only charts. There are a lot of charts in it, but they're also very chattable. recipes in this. So whatever, and people are making so many of these recipes. I'm so excited. I mean, as you've been seeing, and everything has been very, very chart worthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've been talking, because when was our first trip to India together? I mean, how old is Shagun, your daughter?
9 years. 9
so
years.
She was 6 months old.
Yes.
She came with us, I think,
Yes.
when we were there. So
Oh,
8.5 years ago was our first
8.5
trip.
years ago. We
And
literally had the conversation. I remember in my apartment in New York, I'm like, what do you think about this idea? And you're like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, I found another crazy kindred spirit like me. Let's do it.
And I remember, the revelation of having my first chaat. It was ram laddu, which is like that, it's one of my favorites. A lentil fritter with daikon radish and really spicy mint chutney. And, but I've been talking to people about chaat ever since, and it's kind of an elusive thing in a way, and yet it's not. I always describe it as a tapas party. It's the new tapas party. But it's so fun now that our book is out that we can actually this is chaat. Here you go.
Exactly. But also the fact is I think one of the funnest part has been the chaat party, or the concept of, because charts are such a personal, experience. Like if you remember, even when we were in India, right? Like while we were standing around the chaat vendor, we were telling him to personalize it. We're like, okay, listen, just go ahead and put a little bit more chili, little bit of this. So the chaat party is such an incredible idea, because you just have this entire table of beautiful, gorgeous ingredients. And then you go ahead and put whatever you want. I mean, this is the chaat party, which is in the book, right? Yeah. And it can be seasonal. It can be whatever. Like I literally say that you give me anything and I'll make a chaat out of it, right? And I am not kidding. Like, I have, there are times when I'm craving. The other day, those peanut butter stuffed pretzels?
Yes. Yeah.
I made a chaat out of that.
I love it. What did you put with it? How did you make it?
So I went ahead and I got some tamarind chutney, some mint chutney. I cut up some, I put some peanuts in it, because the peanuts would go with the peanut butter, and red onions go in it, chilies go in, and then you just mix it up, and there it is, a chaat.
I think that the number that we always talk about, that I think really speaks to how diverse chaat is it's kind of embarrassing. I mean, our first trip, I think we were there for a week.
Oh yeah.
For 10 days.
Yeah.
And I wrote down every chaat we ate. And at the end, we counted it up, and it was over 660 chaat. And that was...
And I'm sure that there were a lot more that we had, which we did not write down.
No.
On the fly.
Exactly. And at your mom's.
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely.
And that's what I think is so incredible too. Like this book, we really tried to explore your childhood, traveling around India on these epic train journeys to visit your grandparents and your relatives and to explore. But it's just staggering that every state in India as well has their own chaat repertoire. It's incredible.
It is so distinct. I mean, when we were also doing the train journeys, right? Like from Delhi to Agra, it was a completely different, experience. And especially along the way when, they had the vendors just get in the train with, remember the black garbanzo chaat, which the guy was selling in a steel bucket.
Yes.
And it looked so beautiful because he had arranged the tomatoes around, the way he had put the lime. It was such a visual feast. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what makes it so interesting. And, if you think about chaat, regional cooking is so everywhere in the world, you hear about regional cooking, right? And chaats are no different. Because based on what is available in that area, that's what goes into the chaats. Like chaats are also so seasonal. You remember the first time we went to India, that was during winters. It was in January. Yeah. And that was the first time even I had had this chaat in Delhi, which was the star fruit and the sweet potato chaat. right?
Love that
Which
one.
I had
Yeah.
never had before. And sweet potatoes are only available in, during winters. And just to see that chart, or let's not forget the Daulat ki chart, which is not in this book because it's so, it has a very, the ingredients are very much available in India and it's kind of tough to get over here. But that was fantastic. Just to,
Yeah.
for the first time, I had also had it. So that's why it's such an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Just going and exploring all of these dishes together was
It's
so I can't
amazing.
wait to do it again.
I can't either. I'm
Shot
dreaming of it.
too.
It feels so long ago, even though our last trip, it wasn't that long ago, but
It
it's
was last year.
incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's incredible. So the origin story of this book was you really dreaming of those train trips from your childhood, and that really opening up for you kind of the gateway, and as well kind of an epiphany, like how vast and how incredible the culinary repertoire of India is. And so can you just talk about some of those childhood memories of chaat as you
So
journeyed around India?
one of my favorite things is that, we used to take trains by India, in India, and during summer holidays and winter holidays. And the trains are unlike the trains over here. The windows are open, the doors are open, stops
Yeah.
at each and every small station, and the local vendors from those, cities or towns or villages would
Yeah.
come into the train to sell, whatever that city was famous for. And these journeys would take 3 days, 3 nights, like you're sitting and you're like, okay, are we there yet? And this was before, you could see Netflix or anything of that sort. You would be reading books. But to me, my biggest form of entertainment was food, because food has always been, my first love. So be it the people who would get on the train and they would be getting their lunch boxes or dinner boxes, and I would be like, what are you eating? Because they got up from that place. Or the vendors. And I would remember, I'm like, oh my god, okay, we go to Chennai, and at Chennai we have the curd rice and the lemon rice. Okay, at such and such a station we have this. So there was this entire I would look forward for the journey, in that way. But
Yeah.
I think very early on I realized how vast, the Indian cuisine, spectrum is.
Yes.
And the other thing which really, I think, which formed me as a chef, or kind of nudged me in the direction of being a chef, was when I realized what a great connector food is, right?
Mm.
You can connect with anybody in the
Mhm.
world over food.
Yeah.
And that is something which hasn't changed till date. So I think those were the two really biggest things that nudged me, that, hey, be a chef. And to me, a chart, I think, is what has formed my foundation of creating a perfect dish. Because a chart is, it's a combination of everything, right?
Mhm.
It's a textural contrast, it's
Yeah.
a flavor contrast, it is a temperature contrast. So
Mhm.
to me, an ultimate dish is what a chart is, that it's
Yeah.
got, crunchy and mushy together, right? It's
Mhm.
got sweet, salty, spicy, tart together. It has
Yeah.
got hot, cold together. You
Mhm.
have that in a dish, you have
That's all you need.
already reached perfection. What else do you want?
Exactly. And I think as I've tried to explain chaat, I'm so glad the book is out now, because people can just read about what a chaat is, because it it can be a little tricky to explain.
It
Yes.
is. I mean, I
Um,
grew up with it, and can you imagine? Like, I still struggle, and it's
right,
like
exactly. It's like this elusive,
the chart
and
is chart.
your chaat is chaat. And but if so, let's take a common Indian dish, samosa. So a samosa, we have had these conversations so much. It's like, and not for us now, we get it, but to others, we're like, no, a samosa is not a chaat. A samosa becomes a chaat when. So if you can kind of walk us through that, to kind of demystify chaat.
So, samosa is a savory pastry turnover, which is usually in the shape of a pyramid. It's stuffed with spiced. traditionally it's stuffed with spiced potatoes, with peas, and of course now you can stuff anything in a samosa, and then you deep fry it, and so it's this crunchy and absolutely delicious. Now that is a appetizer, right? So in my world, I would say that is a let's see, which is an appetizer you get over here. Um, Chicken wings, okay? So you get chicken wings, you have deep fried chicken wings, you have chicken wings, right? Now with the samosa, to make it a chaat, you put a base of a garbanzo curry, right? Then on top of that, you put tamarind chutney, you put mint chutney, you put onions, you put tomatoes, you put save. I mean, everybody has their own recipe, right?
Yeah.
And that now becomes a chaat. So you take the wings, on the wings, you go ahead and put whichever hot sauce, etc. Throw some, cut up some celery, throw some celery, put some carrots, mix it. Now you have a wing chaat. So I think that is the easiest way to explain what,
Absolutely.
how you can make something, how you can chartify something.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I think as well, people often think that Indian food is so complex and you can't get the ingredients, and but that's what I love about chaat as well. And as you were talking about the chaat party, it's like you can have 80 ingredients that you can get at the grocery store or order, and it comes right to your door with anything. It's not hard to source, really. And I think it demystifies that as well.
And with the chaat party, the most interesting part is that the most amount of labor goes into cutting stuff, because literally you can get tamarind chutney, very good tamarind chutney online or at an Indian store, which is always a great, adventure if you go to, an ethnic store. Mint chutney, so easy to make. You get each and every ingredient in a regular grocery store. Yogurt sauce, again, everything at a regular store. So all you're doing is pretty much just cutting stuff and putting it in different bowls and making it so colorful and beautiful. And then as your friends come, they go ahead and make their own charts. I mean, Jody, you remember, like, to us, our big book tour was going to be chaat parties all across America, right? And beyond.
We're going to have them.
We will have
it's
them, yes.
A little delayed.
I know.
Well, yeah. And we were going to be riding the trains.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to be doing these epic train rides around the US. And
no questions about it. Oh God, yes, we had some grand plans.
Yeah. You've told me so many incredible stories over the years. And, some of the stories that I love the most are those you've shared of your grandmothers. And, if you can share a few of those, they're just so beautiful. I love the one about the mango tree and how that's fantastic. Yeah. There's so many. Do you share a few of those?
There are so many. So one of my favorite memories is we used to have 2 mango trees in our backyard. And I was this complete tomboy. And I know it's very hard for you guys to think that is possible, but yes, I was. So I literally, I would be climbing the trees all the time, and I would be just having so much fun. And my mom would be like, don't climb the trees, because she knew that, I would fall down and all. I mean, and I had I have fallen down trees. I scraped my whole face. I hit my head. Like I once, my chin, completely, I had 20 stitches over here. So I've done all of that, right? So strictly instructed not to climb trees. My grandmom, my dad's mom, she came for one summer holiday. Usually we would go to them. And she came and she looked at the mango trees and she's like, oh my God, these mangoes are amazing. She's like, okay, Maneet, climb the trees and start breaking all the mangoes. And of course, my mom couldn't say anything. She couldn't, kind of this was her mother-in-law who was giving instructions. So she couldn't say anything. I'm like, of course, telling my mom, now you stop me. And I climbed the trees and broke all of these raw mangoes. And while I was breaking these mangoes, I did not realize that the sap of a mango is very, very astringent. And they were, and the sap was all over my face and it burnt my face. It was literally I had marks all over, but I really didn't care. And we gathered all those mangoes, we washed those mangoes, and my grandmom made a pickle out of it. Now, the
Mm.
mango pickle, it's very tough to cut the stone of the mango, but that is a very integral part of making the mango pickle. So we fill these shopping bags, like we had these cloth shopping bags, filled all of that. In a rickshaw, we went to the vegetable market. There was a lady sitting over there with a really sharp knife, which is, on the ground, that she would hold it and she would cut the mangoes. See, she cut all the mangoes for us. We got it back. And I still remember we had these fresh cotton sheets,
Mm.
and grandma, she put all the mangoes, cut mangoes on it and let it sun dry for a
Mm.
couple of days. So every day we would get it in and then we would bring it out. And then she made this pickling with mustard oil and fennel and onion seeds. And I can
Oh,
still smell it. It was just so incredible.
it's amazing. Obviously, when you bring up pickles, I just share quickly my, so the first time we were staying with your parents in Delhi, and I had never had an Indian pickle before. And they're so different than our, I think, traditional idea of a cucumber that's pickled, and they're pungent, and it takes over in a sensory way everything as you're eating, and you're supposed to just have a little bit, but your mom, she's so generous, and she just kept putting more and more pickles on the table, because I I didn't understand that it's not just a small little garnish,
Oh my
it's
God.
like I was inhaling the pickles. And so still, I lived in Nashville, very close to you, for a year, and I love that every time I would go over to your house, and I couldn't ever tell if it was a joke or not, but I was so excited. You'd put out like 20 pickles.
Oh my God. I mean, first of all, it's embarrassing that I had all of those pickles at home, but also the fact
That should
you
be pride.
no, but it is. I think to me, cooking is it's such a nourishing thing, right? So like every time you would come, I'm like, oh my God, you might like this pickle, or if it was anything that I picked up, right? Like even now, whenever I go and stand in front of the pickle, aisle in the Indian store, I'm like, this is a new pickle. Jody would like to try this.
Well, and this is and your hospitality. You would be getting home off the flight in the middle of the night from a chop shoot in New York. And I was staying at your house. And the next morning, I would think, oh, I'm up early. She won't be up yet. She got home so late. And there you are making dosa. All the pickles are already on the table. It's your hospitality. I think one thing that, having known you for so long, and as well having eaten your cuisine for so long, and having the pleasure of going to your restaurants, one thing you've always talked to me about is how, and I think this can really apply to Chats as well, how you can really pick out those regional dishes and kind of make them your own. And can you talk about, how you do that, like at Chauhan Ale Masala House, and how you're doing that at Chautable? And
I always think that there is something which clicks, right? Like everybody, based on what their profession is, they are constantly gathering information which you might have to pull out, when needed. So it's
yeah.
really interesting. For example, when I moved to Nashville, one of the first things that I had was a hot chicken. I mean, it's a religion over here. We know that, right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is great, but this reminds me of a pakora, right? So then I'm like, okay, let's do a hot chicken pakora, because that was the twist of it, right? Or black eyed peas, right? I mean, it's iconic over here. And I remember that like on Sundays, mom used to make, it's called rongi in Hindi, and she would be making this, and I'm like, oh, let's go ahead and let's put some collard greens in it and let's like make it a southern dish. So it's really interesting, but there is the whole team which gets involved, and because at times I get really out there ideas, and then that, Jody, and then they've got to rein me, and they're like, yeah, no, chef. But then even in Chatterville, right, like we are doing seasonal charts. We had, like, one of my favorites has been a strawberry and a rhubarb chart, which is fantastic. Right now, we're doing pear fennel or a broccolini chaat, which is mind blowing. It is so good. So I think that is what it is, just to have, and I mean, a lot of these, my team comes up with, they're like, hey, chef, can we do this into chaat? I'm like, why not? Let's try it. Let's see how it tastes. So
Yeah.
it's fun to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chaatable being your fourth restaurant in Nashville, I was just so thrilled that you opened it, because as I said in the beginning, I've been talking to people for almost a decade about chaat, and yet you don't find chaat restaurants in the US like you would maybe a tapas restaurant. Or so what was your motivation for opening it? And as well, in terms of the reactions from people, what are some of the funnest reactions that you're getting? Because it's just a riot of flavor and color and life, and it's incredible.
Totally. I think Chaatable was, the space kind of fell in our laps, right? So
Yeah.
Vivek and I, we went to see it, and we were looking at it, and both of us kind of turned to each other, and we were like, let's do a chaat place. Because I mean, that is something which we've grown up with. Like, that is nostalgia to us, right? Like, we both did our undergrad in India. And even though Vivek was 1 year senior to me, we still have conversations about like, oh, remember this place? We used to get the most amazing like vada pav, or we used to get the most amazing chaats, right? So there is so much of that, like, commonality in our love for chaats. Like, even now, whenever we go to Jaipur, Vivek's our nephew is like, we go to play, we go for pani puri, based on a place that has that Vivek's mom has vetted and approved and made sure that the water is bottled, because that is very, very important. She doesn't want us to get sick. And then both Vivek and I, we start having a golgappa eating contest, and like our nephew is like, come on, Vineet, you can have more. Okay, Vivek, you can have more. So it's like, it's so fun.
I
I
think
that was the idea. We wanted to give people a glimpse of what, of what it would be like to stepping in India, right?
Yes.
Like, you remember the first time you went over there? I mean, it's a sensory overload. There are colors, there are smells, there are sounds, from all direction. And that's what we tried to recreate over there. I mean, there is a bangle wall of 40,000 bangles, which was another one of those ideas where people should have told me, no, chef, I don't think it's a good idea. But it makes an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up, so another one of my favorite chaat, pani puri, and then you switched out and called it golgappa. And so this is one of those chaats. It doesn't happen with every chaat, but how regionally a chaat kind of travels through India, and every state kind of makes it their own and potentially that's it. Oh, it's so good. Oh, you're making my mouth water. And they're so fun to eat. And so if you could speak to that, oh my gosh. Oh, and just to stand and I know you're not supposed to drink the water, but we do. So if you could share a few things about you and your sister secretly having golgappas on the way home in Ranchi. And as well, like how chaat can kind of morph as it travels through, the different states, and then just kind of give us a foundation of what pani puri is, because it's so unique and fun.
It is so unique and fun. So pani puri is, they are these semolina and rice balls. They are like a ping pong, right? So they are hollow in the center. You fill it up with potatoes and garbanzo and tamarind chutney, and then you pour a mint cilantro water in it and eat it in a bite. Okay. Like, whoever has tried it for the first time, it's just, I love their reaction, because they're like, what just happened here? This is incredible, right? So, but this is one of those, my mouth is watering while I'm talking to you about it.
I know, me too.
Right? It's so it depends on which region it is. I grew up in Ranchi, which is in eastern India. So over there, it was called puchkas, right? It's called pani puri, in northern India, or golgappas, or patashas, or like, there are so many different terms for it, but the concept is the same. The the water can change, the filling can change, but the concept is the same. It's the puff. You put some filling in it, you put the water, and you eat it in a bite, which is like just incredible. So as kids, again, we weren't allowed to just go and eat, especially the golgappas, because it was very questionable where the water was coming from. Like, we grew up in India. So my sister and I, when we would be walking back from school, we would be like saving all our pocket money, and then we would be just hiding from our parents, and we're like, okay, let's have golgappas and stuff. And we would be so excited because we would be bargaining, because in 1 rupee you could get 5. So I would be like, okay, so how much can I get in 50 paisa? And they're like 3. So I'm like, okay, here 50 paisa. Then he would give me 3. Then I'm like, another 50 paisa. So I would think like I've scored big extra golgappa. And I remember once we were like just stuffing our face, where one of our really good friends just, they drove by, our family friends. And I'm like, oh God, we are in so much trouble. But yeah, it was, and we would compete. I'm like, I had 20. And she would be like, I had 22. So it was fun.
And that's what I love as well about the golgappas is when you're with a vendor, people are just lined up, and it's kind of this continuous, he's just handing it. And then it's astounding in the end, you've maybe had, if you're us, 20 golgappas, and he remembers how many you've had as he's like frantically making and handing out to everyone else. It's crazy. Incredible. It's so impressive.
It's such an art, I swear. So true.
Such an art. And I think that's something too, that we try to pay tribute to in the book are the vendors, because they're incredible. And some of the stories, like I remember on our last trip last year, which I still can't believe, it was only a year ago, but the vendor we talked to in Old Delhi, Chandni Chowk, who, shared, he just had his little stand, but he shared, that he has been there, his father, his grandfather, with the same stand in the same place. And it's incredible. They inherit these stands, and they've sometimes been there for generations. And if you could just talk a little bit more about the vendors who we just love so much and tried to really pay tribute to in this book.
I mean, this book is, it's dedicated to the street foods and, street food sellers and vendors, because I think they make all journeys so delicious, be it a long journey on a train or even a short journey from point A to point B. I think it's so important. But this is such an incredible art of just, because if you think about it, none of these vendors have a written recipe. It's all in the hand, right? It's like how much. And the fact is that they have consistently managed to maintain the same flavor. Like we were talking to this guy, I was actually looking at the video the other day, Jody, and just listening to it, because it kind of inspires you every time, right? And he was like making this chola kulcha, and he had a bicycle. Behind the bicycle, he had that big pot which was full of the kulchas. And one of the most incredible things that I find about these street vendors in India is how economical they are with space. Like if it's on a cycle, they'll have everything over there. So like when we were working in starting off in kitchens, the one thing that everybody would say, just be efficient in your movement, like as few steps as you can. And these guys are so smart about it, which just makes it so exciting. So so that I think is incredible. But also then there are some street vendors who've made such an incredible job. Like, people are standing in line and they realize that the reason they're doing it is for the next generation. So you remember when we went to Mumbai and we met this Ram and Cham, and it's a street vendor. But we were talking and he's like, so where are you guys visiting from? And we were like, from America. And he's like, oh, okay. I have sent both my sons to study over there. So it was actually incredible to see how these vendors are working so hard for their next generation and the next generation. And a lot of these vendors are taking those recipes, and because they have education, going ahead and making bigger businesses. So it gives me goosebumps to just see the evolution happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I think no discussion of chaat is complete if you don't talk about chaat masala. And it just, even thinking of chaat masala right now makes my mouth water. And this is something I have to have it. You know, I'm here in Ireland. I don't normally travel with spices, but I wasn't sure I'd be able to get it here. So I took it with me because I feel nervous when I don't have chaat masala in the kitchen. So if you could just speak a little bit to what that is and why it's so good and why it's in so many chops.
So chaat masala is probably one of the essential ingredients which goes into chaats. It is a blend of different spices, and the predominant spice being amchur. Amchur is raw dried mango powder, which gives tartness to the dish. So there is the tartness that you get from the raw, dried mango powder. Then there's a little bit of heat that you get from chili powder. Then there is some ginger powder in it. Then there is some black salt, which gives it that funky, umami-ish flavor to it. So it's a combination of all of these different spices. And I promise you, anybody, once they use chaat masala, it probably will end up in everything. You're making a salad, you don't need a vinaigrette, put chaat masala. Oh, potatoes are being roasted, okay, chaat masala. In the restaurant, we serve fries and we finish it with chaat masala, and people are addicted to it. So it is like, it's just so incredible that chaat masala can be used in everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in mentioning spices, I'm thinking of the spice market in Chandni Chowk, which is Old Delhi, which has been there for centuries. And as we were walking through, sneezing,
it cleared our sinuses. It definitely did. And it's a good, it was at that time as opposed to right now.
Oh my God, no kidding. Exactly.
I know. But it was so incredible, Jody, because we went over there and they were ingredients that I had never seen or even heard of, right? You remember when, like, I'm like, what is that? And he's like, moss. I'm like, what is moss, right? And it's used in cooking in Eastern India. And I was like, I have never seen this. Or we saw the actual Ratan Jog, which is from the bark of a tree, which, actually imparts, when you steep it in oil, it imparts this rich beetroot hue to it, which is the red color you traditionally get from a lamb rogan josh. Over here, people just add tomatoes to try to get the color. But, so it was just like, it was mind-blowing. It was like sacks and sacks and sacks of spices. Oh, such a happy place, such a happy place.
Such a happy place. And, you know, what are some of those other, you know, you mentioned amchur, the mango powder. What are some of those other, you know, Indian ingredients that, you know, you don't necessarily need them to make chaat, but that, or Indian cuisine in general, but I think really make people excited. Like it's a revelation, which seems to happen all the time in India. You know, it's just a new revelation after new revelation. What are some of those things that you introduce people to, because you know it's just going to blow their minds?
So I say, you know, I've got this spice box, a masala dabba, which has got 7 different containers, and that's what I take into use every day that I'm cooking. That's my everyday box, and each and every Indian household has, you know, a box of their own. So so I say they are the 3 C's, which is cumin, coriander, and chili, all of these powders. Then there is cumin seeds, which I start a lot of my cooking with. And I also go ahead and toast them and powder them to finish chaats with, right? And then there is garam masala, there is chaat masala, and there's turmeric. So these are the 7 spices that I have. But then you can get into, like, one of my favorite spices to use is fenugreek leaves, kasuri methi, which again is so beautiful and herbaceous and incredible. So yeah, it's like, then I can go on and on and on and on. But the fun part about this book is that we've kept it so, I think, so approachable. And I've been so enjoying everything that people have been cooking and posting, because a lot of these recipes are also not the first recipes that that I would gravitate to. Like there was somebody who made petha.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
like she was a 7-year-old kid who actually then I did a Instagram live with because it was so incredible, right? And then like the chungri malai, which is the shrimp curry from Odisha, which was recently on Bon Appetit. So and people have been cooking it and they've been like, this is incredible, and everything is easy and approachable for beginners. But then there are a few recipes for people who are more adventurous, who want to get into something more involved. Sure, we've got that. And that's what I love about it. I think this is, anybody can get the book and they can find a recipe that they can very easily cook.
Yeah, exactly. And I, as well, initially we had thought just to put chaat recipes into the book, but then we did add, as you were talking about, some of those more complex recipes. If you want a biryani, it's there. If you want, a lot of these foundational recipes too. And yeah, that's, I found like feedback from the book. That's what people are really enjoying. It's like, and I think now everyone is cooking from home. So it seems that people are they're really going deep
They are
cooking their way through the book, which is incredible. And
and that is the fun part. Like over here, we have drinks, we have appetizers, we have, if you want to get more involved, we have fermented dosas and idlis and desserts. We've got gajar halwa and sevia. So they're literally, you can, whatever you want to do, it's in the book. And I think that's what I love about it the most.
Yeah. What have been some of your favorite, just some of the favorite feedback that you're receiving, or as you were talking about people, because it's so much fun to see what people are cooking. And I'm just so surprised, and it's just so festive. And I don't know, what have been some of your experiences with the book?
I think one of my favorite feedback has been the fact that, it's so interesting that this came out at this time, because a lot of people they are missing traveling, right? Yeah. And the one thing which I love is they keep on saying, like, Jodi and you have taken us on a journey without leaving leaving our home or our houses, which we want to, but it's taken us on a journey. That's been amazing. Most of the people are like, oh, this is actually so much more easier than like what we thought, which is like, it's like demystifying, like, oh, really? That's it? Oh, I thought it would be more complicated. So that is so much fun. What else? I mean, the fact that kids, are cooking from this, and I think that is so fascinating. Just to see kids getting involved with a cuisine which is not the usual everyday cuisine. So that I think is fantastic. It's been so gratifying, and especially to see ourselves on so many lists, right? Like right now, I think Style Blueprint was like the 6 cookbooks to buy for the holidays. So all the guys, like all of you guys who have joined us, you can buy it from Book Larder. Come on, guys.
And we're just having this conversation, but I see, I know a few of my Seattle friends are here, and but does anybody have any questions for us? Maneet and I can talk endlessly.
Non-stop. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us questions. This is, I mean, as you can see, this is absolutely beautiful. And okay, so we've got to talk to you about our amazing photographer.
Yes.
Linda. Just look at this. This is what we start off with. And then this is the chart party we were talking about. But then this is one of my favorite shots.
Yeah. And the train station, we have a question too, so I'll jump into that. But that train station in Jaipur that we visited, that's run by women, that was just so inspiring, so incredible. And that's another thing that I think, the stations in India are as diverse and they have so many stories, just like Chaat. It's
Oh my
just
God.
mind
And,
blowing.
and so colorful, like, you know, even the porters, right? Like if you
Oh,
remember, I should have that photograph somewhere, but even the porters, they have like such incredible uh, red and colorful. And yeah, it's just so fun, so fun.
so fun. Somebody is asking what your favorite samosa filling is.
Oh my God, it really depends. It depends on my mood. If it's raining outside, then I'm a purist because I want my, like steaming hot samosa, crunchy on the outside with potatoes and peas, and there has to be tamarind chutney. But then we have so much fun at the restaurant. In normal times, we used to do something at Chauhan, which was called samosa and mimosa, right, which was on a Sunday, which was Sunday brunch. So
Love that.
our samosa fillings would change. Like if it's fall, then it would be sweet potato or pumpkin, or you know there'll be duck vindaloo with some cranberry chutney, or like you know for the holidays we would do like a ham and cranberry. Like so there is so much of creativity that you can do that it just keeps it like so fun. But yeah,
Yeah,
it depends on my mood.
absolutely.
I'm usually a purist.
So somebody's asking, you know, for an intro person, somebody who's approaching it for the first time, and they're not necessarily into spicy food, what kind of chaat would you recommend for them?
You know, chaats are traditionally not never hot spicy. They
Yeah,
are flavorful spicy.
yeah,
So
yeah.
usually when we go to a chaat vendor, we go and tell them, we are like, make it extra spicy, right? But I do think that a great starter, we do have a recipe in the book. It's the sweet potato and the star fruit chaat that I was talking about.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
is, it's got a little bit of chili powder which you can
yeah,
skip because you really don't need it if you don't like spice. And it's just
yeah.
the chaat masala and lemon juice, and it's just simple and beautiful.
So
There's
good.
also a lovely peanut chaat, a boiled peanut chaat, which again
Mhm.
is not spicy at all. But
Yeah,
hey, you know, to me, I'm like, this is your roadmap, right?
exactly.
Go ahead
Yeah,
and take a detour, like put
yeah,
your own
exactly. I love that.
twist on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I feel compelled because I love them so much. Just to mention your wonderful parents, and I just, you know, in terms of what they taught you, that you have always, I mean, I know they have taught you so many incredible lessons because they're such incredible people, but, you know, what have you really carried with you, you know, on this incredible journey that you're on in food?
I think the biggest thing that, you know, even when I decided to be a chef, and especially in a town where
Mhm.
everybody was studying to be a doctor or an engineer,
Yeah.
and if you're really looking outside the box, maybe an accountant, right? Like, and over here,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I want to be a chef. So the one thing they said is do whatever you want, just make sure you're the best at it, right?
Yeah.
So never compromise, always strive for excellence. And that is something which I have always done. I've always pushed myself to it. And at times it becomes crazy. But you know what? It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. What's next? Right. I know we're kind of in this holding pattern. You're never in a holding pattern. I always feel like I should wear a bracelet when I'm feeling like, oh, I can't. What would Monique do? She would do it. She would go for it. But what's next? What's on the horizon for
I
you?
think
Just
at the present moment, what we are really working on is just making sure that what we have is healthy.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
I mean, this has been it's been a crazy time. I mean, for all industries, but especially for the hospitality industry,
yeah,
it's been
yeah.
very hard. It's been very difficult. So yeah, that's what we are doing. We're just slowly making sure that one by one we are getting our team members back. Just making sure that the restaurants that we have, they are healthy. And then
Mhm.
yeah, you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
I've been so inspired to watch kind of our food community, just there's always solidarity in the food community. The basis of it is hospitality, but yeah, I've just been incredibly inspired by the solidarity everyone is showing towards one another. And yeah, it's been amazing. I'm dreaming though of the day when we're going to gather, and I know it will come. We're having shop parties, and I feel in a way it's been my solace, because it's been so strange to have a book come out. You're like, here I am in Ireland, my book. Oh, I'm sitting alone. But it's almost like it'll have a second life once we can all gather again. And
I'm going to show up in Ireland with a suitcase full of chart party stuff, right? That's gonna happen.
I have to tell, I actually ordered yesterday Sev, which is a fried chickpea noodle. I was craving everything so much. I discovered that there's a delivery service here that's very efficient, and massive order yesterday. I just couldn't hold out any longer.
That's hilarious.
So even if I'm having a chop party by myself, I'm just going to go for it.
A chop party is a chop party. It's always a party.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so anything else? I miss you. It's so good to see you.
I miss you too. I know. We should, this is like, as I was saying, we could go on and on and on and on about the book, but it's so fun. And of course, do you remember the time that you made me wear a sari over my...
and made you tie it, which I've never seen you tie a sari.
Yes. Over my jeans and like my shirt. And I'm like, yeah. And then my sneakers under it. It was like, it was cool.
And in looking at that, you're making curd rice. Yeah. That's something else that I find so fascinating in India are all of the biodegradable containers, the terracotta. I remember the first time I had a lassi with you in Chandni Chowk, Old Delhi. It was in this beautiful terracotta cup. I was like, oh, I must take this home as a souvenir. And you're drinking, and then everyone just threw it on the ground and it shattered. And I was just so upset at first, but then it's like, well, yeah, this is terracotta. Exactly. So beautiful, a work of art, but also biodegradable. So let's just some of those.
They're not glazed, right? So what happens is that it gives a little bit of a flavor of the earth, which is something that I've never, like, as much as I try, I just can't recreate those flavors. So, that's why they make it like so amazing. But I mean, I remember as kids, there used to be pattal, which were these, leaves which were fine. So each and every region had something different because it really depended on what was locally available. And there was a whole cottage industry in which women would have these like small sticks, and they would go ahead and weave all of these plates together, which was incredible. And then curd rice was always in banana leaf, which was like amazing. Or here there was, or like a lot of newspaper and stuff. Like this is the leaf that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So all of these leaves, and these are all like, if you can see right over here, these are all small pieces of stick that have been used to weave them together. So it was incredible. Things are changing in India, but these are such amazing like foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something as well, as I've traveled to India so many times, and just the care that goes into every detail, including what you're served. It's just the intricacy, the care, the thought behind it. And then you can see the generations lined up behind it that got it there. Yeah. It's incredible. So everything has a legacy, it's amazing. So I don't know if there
I think there's one more question. Anne Fairley is asking, love this. Is there anything that makes something not to be a chart? Yes, and I'll tell you what it is. If something is not delicious and not lickable, it's not a chart.
Exactly.
That's all I can say.
You could make, like you were saying, with the peanut butter filled pretzels, you can make a chaat out of anything. You've taught me that.
Everybody thinks I'm like completely cuckoo, and I'm like, try it before you scorn it. And then Vivek is like, this is actually really good.
It's
I'm like,
really good. I love that. Hi, Laura.
Hello. This has been so much fun.
Oh my God.
Thank you
so much.
Oh, are you kidding me? Thank you. I mean, like, as you can see, we could do this on and on and on and forever.
No, that's all right. And I do hope that you will take that train journey and come out to Seattle, and we'll have that chop party in our kitchen at the at Book Larder. We would absolutely
It'll
love
happen.
that.
I think this
Good.
book will have a second life.
Oh,
you
yes.
know?
Excellent. Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're going to
Absolutely.
milk it.
Yeah, as well you should. Hey, you worked hard on it, you know?
Very. It
Get
took
it?
9 years. 9 years in the making.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
thank you so much, and congratulations to both of you. The book is really magnificent. I was so delighted that you held up that picture at the front, because that was like, you know, you had me at that train station photo. I was like, I don't care what's in this book. That's the most amazing.
Oh,
and it's wonderful. And it's wonderful.
You have an incredible store, and thank you so
you.
much for this opportunity.
I know. Thank you.
Oh, we really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us wherever you are this evening. You can get the book at booklarder.com. Jody, get some rest. It's like, oh no, but you have another meeting at 2 a.m. or whatever it is.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
You.
Yeah. And have a lovely evening. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Jody. Miss you.
Bye-bye.